Hello there, my fellow gamers. Today we are not going to talk about notebooks. Well, at least not a whole lot, since we got this behemoth behind me to deal with. The curved colossus you are looking at is Acer's Predator X45, and it comes with literally everything that will a true gamer's heart skip a beat or two. I had the pleasure of driving it daily for a couple of weeks for both video games and work. And in addition to my personal verdict, I also put this puppy through our display test to see what the bent OLED can deliver. Before we fire up some games and edit a few videos, let's see what the X45 has going for it. The 44.5 inch true 10-bit OLED panel refreshes at a very snappy 240Hz. And while I have used a few curved displays so far, none of them have been as extreme as the Predator, with a very pronounced 800R curve. I personally like it a lot, since you get this amazing feeling of sitting in your game rather than in front of it. And it's definitely a big plus for immersion. For work, you of course do not really need a curved monitor, but it's also not a disadvantage. And with the large panel you can easily fit a few applications side by side, making this the perfect single monitor setup display. In addition to the solid core specs, Acer also claims full DCI-P3 coverage and up to 1000 nits peak for HDR content, which we will compare to our measurements in a little bit. While all of this sounds pretty solid so far, one key specification might make you raise your eyebrows in today's world of high-res, big format displays, and that is the X45's resolution of 3440 by 1440, which translates to a relatively low 84 ppi or pixels per inch. I would not say it's a deal breaker, but it's definitely noticeable, especially if you maybe own a 4K display or work a lot on laptops, which tend to have much higher pixel counts on smaller displays, making your content appear a lot more detailed than on the X45. But enough with the rambling, let's see what this one can deliver. To test the ultrawide display properly, I grabbed the fastest laptop I have on hand right now, which happens to be the ROG Scar 17, we just reviewed very recently. The 175W RTX 4090 in this one should be an excellent fit for the X45's resolution, even though it might not quite be able to bring things up to 240Hz. Setting up the X45 is pretty easy and straightforward, at least as soon as you get the enormous box through the door. Thankfully, the large display comes pre-assembled, so you can easily get it out of its packaging, attach your power and display cables, and you are good to go. Acer also includes a VESA mount if you would instead use a third-party stand or arm. Speaking of stand and cables, the X45 comes with a decent amount of I/O, offering two HDMI 2.1s, DisplayPort, USB-C with up to 90W of power delivery, and a USB upstream to drive the two additional USB-As for your peripherals or the like. The stand is extremely sturdy, offers a solid range of movement for such a large display, and keeps wobble to an absolute minimum. While Acer's Predator lineup might be their dedicated gaming brand, the X45 presents itself devoid of any excessive styling, and fits well within a clean high-end gaming or work setup. The panel itself is very thin, but the large screen still takes up quite a bit of space on your desk as a direct result of the extreme curve, and the assembly at the back housing the integrated power supply, ports and stand of course. That said, you also do not want to sit too far away from this one, since it will lessen the immersive effect of the curved panel. My desk is about 85 cm deep, which worked quite well for me. Before we fire up some games, let me walk you through our measurements for the panel. Especially the brightness behavior is always something to keep in mind with large format OLEDs. In SDR you might easily be turned off from the X45 immediately, since we have only been able to measure around 100 nits for a wide image covering the whole 45 inch of screen real estate. That number does not improve a whole lot until we get below 50% of screen coverage, and upon reaching below 25%, the maximum brightness stays pretty consistent at around 300 nits. In stark contrast to the recent offerings with mini LED tech, the brightness situation might very well be the Achilles heel of the X45. The situation improves slightly with HDR content, starting at 150 nits for a full wide image and going up all the way to above 800 nits for very small bits of content. While it's definitely quite annoying to have your display brightness change depending on what kind of content you have on your monitor, it does sound a lot worse on paper than it is in real life usage. But if you work or game in a pretty bright office or have a window behind you, you might be in trouble with this one on sunny days. It also makes the X45 less than ideal for more work-focused applications. I tried the Predator for our video production, and while the Rec 709 profile in the OSD is very accurate, color critical work with a screen that changes brightness on its own is a bit, well, problematic. Speaking of colors, Acer definitely did their homework in terms of factory calibration, and with delta E's at around 1, you do get very true to life colors straight out of the box. For some reason though, we have not been able to calibrate the screen with our tools, to see if we can improve upon these numbers. But given that the brightness situation might not make this one your next reference monitor anyways, I think we can give them a pass. While the subjective impression regarding contrast is excellent and on typical OLED levels, our measurements speak a different story, once more because of the low brightness with an all-white image. But do not let this fool you, in person the X45 looks amazing, and while you may already know that I'm a big OLED fan, it is very tough to go back to something like an IPS after using this one for a bit. One disadvantage for OLEDs is PWM, and the Predator is no exception, with a relatively low frequency of 240 Hz. So if you are sensitive towards it, you might want to try out the X45 before pulling the trigger. On the flip side, response times are unmatched, and if you are into fast-paced shooters or the like, you will hardly find a better suited panel than this one. So how does all this translate to actually using this one? As I said earlier, the situation might sound a lot more grim on paper than it actually is during everyday usage. While I wish Acer would give the user the option to disable the brightness limit and set a fixed value however low that may be, I still had a great time with the X45 for general productivity and for our videos. The 21:9 aspect ratio gives you a great overview of your timeline, for example, and you can easily put two applications next to each other, giving you that multi-monitor feel with a much cleaner single panel setup. And in games, well, I'm in love. Even in SDR, that sweet OLED contrast and the vibrant colors make everything pop. And the curve is literally sucking you into your game. In HDR, those higher brightness numbers make for some pretty flashy explosions and effects, and this is truly the X45's virtue. It is simply one of the best gaming experiences money can buy right now. It does not matter if you are into slower story games in which you will get easily distracted by the visual eye candy the massive ultrawide will give you, or if you are into more competitive titles in which the super fast response times and snappy refresh rate will give you a distinct advantage. And while the lower resolution is definitely noticeable on the desktop and in more work-focused applications, it is not as apparent in games, and actually presents itself as an advantage since it's a lot easier to drive. So is the Acer Predator X45 worth its extreme asking price, despite its rather mixed overall impressions? If you are a gamer first and money is not really an issue, well then it doesn't get any better than this. And if they would add something to circumvent the automatic brightness situation, I would even recommend this one as a hybrid for content creators and gamers that are looking for a well-featured, subtly looking screen with that extra bit of eye candy. But again, it's very, very expensive and actually far from perfect, with lots of things that could be deal breakers for a lot of different reasons. So as always, it comes down to what you are looking for and how you would want to use this one and what you are willing to spend for your visual experience. But please folks, let me know what you think. Sound off in the comments below. This shall be it for today. Leave your like if you enjoyed our video, make sure to subscribe on your way out, and for more things tech and laptops, head on over to our website or check out some of our recent videos. Thanks a ton for watching. My name is Alex, you have been absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.